Hello there viewers, and welcome back to another video today here on Gran Turismo Sports. So today you join us for round 11 of the Midway Racing League Group 3 series here at a very wet Red Bull Ring. So yeah, you join us in the wet, and it's not just in the wet, it's in the wet with the grip reduction level set to real. So it is proper wet, it is proper, very slippery, wet conditions, yeah, skating around like an ice rink today. So for this race, I actually did quite a lot of practice. So usually for any race I do on GT Sport, whether it would be MRL or whether it be in Club 100, I'll usually do about half an hour to 45 minutes worth of practice, but for this I did a good hour and a half to 2 hours practice. So I did 3 practice races beforehand, which went quite well, and I did quite a lot of lapping by myself as well. I did about an hour of going around by myself, so I actually did do quite a lot of practice for this, and you'll be able to notice that in today's video. So qualifying's underway then, as you can see on the screen. So we're in lobby 1 as always, in the Diamond lobby against the best drivers in the league. So you've got in front of us, you've got Mike McGann and you've got Jake Beatty. Mike, for a second week in a row, has decided to pick an absolute twitchy death trap as his car. So last week he used the Renault RS01 at Willow Springs. This week he's gone for the Lamborghini Huracan of all cars. So yeah, he is mad, he is absolutely mad, going for the Lamborghini Huracan in the wet. First lap of qualifying was decent. We managed to do a 1 minute 43.0, but we did have a bit of traffic. Mike got in the way at the start, so that was a decent first lap. On lap 2, we managed to make a slight improvement. So as we come out of the final corner here and come up to the start finish line, managed to set a 1 minute 42.9. And for lap 3 now, I'm going to do a little bit of a lap guide. So braking at turn 1 just as the white pit wall ends on the right hand side and hitting your apex through that first corner. Don't want to be touching the sausage curbs because, well, you're just going to spin if you do that. Got to be very careful of the curbs in the wet, certainly when it's in with the real grip reduction. So being careful of the curbs in through turn 1. Coming up to turn 2 then, we're going to be braking just after the white line on the left, so braking just after the 150 meter board, and then hard on the brakes for this tricky hairpin as we do lose the back end slightly then on entry. Being very careful of the throttle on exit. Wheel spin is so easy to get in these conditions, there is such little grip. Got to be really gentle with that throttle on corner exit. Coming down to turn 3 then, braking just after the 150 meter board again on the left hand side, so braking just after the white line and taking your apex through there. Again, don't want to be taking too much curb because it will just send you off. Really difficult coming out of turn 3, getting the power down. It looks easy, but it really is not. So easy to lose the back end. Turn 4, braking halfway between the 100 and the 50 meter board for this, and then just easing it through the corner and being so careful on the throttle so as to not spin and lose the back end. And then as we drifted a little bit into turn 5 there, lost the back end slightly on entry. Yeah, want to take a late apex through there and then straighten out the exit so that you can take turn 6 flat out. Very difficult to take that flat out. You've got to get it just right to take it flat out. Turn 7 then, braking just after the 100 board on the left, and then taking it nice and easy through these last 2 corners, braking just on the left hand side there just before the sausage curb start for the final corner. Again, be careful of the power on exit. You don't want to be on the rumble strips on exit because you won't be able to get the power down. And as we come across the line, we set a 1 minute 42.7. In the end, that lap ended up being enough for us to take pole position, as we took pole by nearly a quarter of a second actually ahead of Zolo 17. So Zolo, he's been racing in MRL for a few rounds now, but hasn't necessarily featured at the front. I think he must be a wet weather specialist or something, because that was a superb lap from him in qualifying to set a 1 minute 43.0 and qualify ahead of Ryan. So Zolo, real name Zohir Ali, very good lap from him. As those of you who watch this series regularly will know, after qualifying we have what's known as a fake race. So it's a fun muckabout race, basically just a 1 lap race which follows qualifying. And well, it was, as always, it was quite an entertaining race. So as we sit here on the grid then, waiting for the 5 lights to go out, just putting traction control onto 1, and well, as we get away, have a look behind us as Zolo doesn't move off the grid, so he stays sat on the grid. Going into turn 1 now, we're probably going to get punted by Ryan, so I'm not going to break in time for turn 1 on purpose, as I go flying off into the runoff area at turn 1 to make sure that no one goes flying into the back of me. As a result of that though, the pack behind us have now got the run on us, as we've got a very poor exit out of that turn 1. So we've got Mark Demand catching us up now. Is anybody going to send me off to Narnia at turn 1? So check out the radar. Mark Demand's braked in time, but well, Roswald hasn't. No, Roswald did not brake in time, as he decided to play a game of Skittles into that hairpin. To be fair, I would have done done the same in his shoes, I would have also played a game of Skittles. So he sent me, Mark and Kelvin all flying off the circuit. Heading down to turn 3 now, we're going to throw a little bit of a party piece here. So as we come to brake, we instead slam on the handbrake rather than the brakes and go flying past Demand and say hello and goodbye to him as we do a full 720 off into the gravel trap. We've now got cars hitting each other off in front as someone's off into the wall, and I think Jake's just rebounded off the wall and sent Apex Magnet flying off into the gravel trap. So hello there, Apex Magnet, good to see you up there off in the gravel trap. Coming into turn 4 here now, we've got Jake, sorry, he's on pause mode. I think he felt a bit sorry for that, even though this is a fun race. He did feel sorry for sending Apex Magnet off into the wall. We're now going to try do a little bit of a party piece again, try and do another 720, but well, as you can see, ended up being a bit of an epic fail, to be honest. Tried doing a 720, ended up doing a bit more than a 720 and going off into the gravel trap instead. Now got Ryan coming flying past us, having played a game of Skittles, now doing a Tokyo drift, going full on drifting through the corners. So we're going to try and copy him here as we try and get the back end out slightly, coming out of turn 6. Now got Ryan in front, going for the Scandinavian flick into the second to last corner with a full big on drift as he goes flying into the wall and makes a complete hash of that. We've got Mike off into the run of error himself, and check this out as we go kaboosh into Ryan and send him flying off into the wall. On the previous 2 rounds, when we tried punting Ryan off, we kind of failed and just sort of gone into the back of him, and he's not really been affected. That punt very much did work. That one was very much a success. That is my first successful ramming attack on Ryan as he goes miles off the circuit and slamming into the barrow. So that was good fun then, good laugh in the fake race. Moving ahead to the actual race itself, so of course starting on pole position once more for this actual race, which is 38 laps long. So Zolu's in second, Ryan's in third, you've got Mark Demand in fourth, Kelvin's done well, qualifying in fifth, with then Dimitar in P6. So sitting on the grid then, putting traction control onto one, and well, it is a grid start, so for only the second time ever in MRL, it is a grid start and in the wet, so this is going to be a bit of a crazy turn 1. So as the lights go out and we sort of get away, although not much because the traction control is cutting in quite a lot. Heading down to turn 1 now, we've got Zolo on our radar, so check out that radar. Is anybody going to go into the back of us? Get a slight nudge there for Ryan, and I think we might have got a second hit or something, but we just about managed to keep that on the circuit, although most of the people behind did not manage to. Now side by side with Zolo on the run up to turn 2. Is he going to be able to get past us up the inside, or are we going to be able to hang it round the outside? So hitting the brakes just after the 150 metre board, and Zolo tucks in behind us, takes it cautiously. Good idea, to be honest. You don't want to be fighting in the wet really at all. It's so sketchy driving in these conditions. So he's tucked in behind us now, coming out of the hairpin. Actually, we're already 6/10 ahead of the guys behind, so I think Zolo was compromised into there, and he may have got hit by the guys behind, not too sure there. But yeah, that was the start of the race. Not too much happened in for the next few laps, just pumped in the lap times, and as we move ahead to lap 5, we've now managed to increase the gap to the guys behind to 2.2 seconds. So you can see you've got Ryan now ahead of Zolo behind me, so them two were fighting. That's what enabled us to get away from the pack. Now the day after this, I had the Club 100 race around here in the dry, which kind of did make things difficult because I've been practicing for the Club 100 race just before this, so of course my braking points were completely different for Club 100 and this, and I was getting them mixed up. And as you can see, coming down into turn 4 here, we get our braking points muddled up, and we are now off into the gravel shop. We've gone flying off the circuit. We're now facing the wrong way in the middle of the track, and well, the time is sapping away here. We're losing so much time here as we end up having to turn it around on the spot and get going again. So we've just lost a huge amount of time there with that really costly mistake. We've just lost 11 seconds, so that is really, really bad for us so early on in the race to make such a big mistake. Literally, I braked at my dry braking point, so that's where I had been braking in Club 100. So yeah, I braked there, went flying off the circuit. There was nothing I could do. As soon as I hit the brakes, I knew I was destined for the gravel trap. So that is going to be really, really costly. Over the course of the next 7 laps, we did manage to regain our composure though and start pumping in some consistent lap times. So if we have a look at the lap times on the right, we're doing consistent 1 minute 43 zeros with a few 1:43 ones thrown in there. So really good consistency from ourselves then, and we have managed to catch up the leaders by 2.5 seconds over the course of these 7 laps. So we've managed to get the gap down from 7.5 seconds down to 5 seconds. So we have done some good lap times here. Coming down now to turn 3 on lap 12 of the race. You've got the 3 guys in front of us, but check out Mark de Man up ahead in the pink Porsche. So I think he just got his braking completely wrong, to be honest. Must have missed his braking point like we did, and off he goes then, off into the gravel trap, just making sure we don't hit him on exit. Just about managed to avoid him, and so yeah, now into P3, so that's a nice position just being gifted to us nice and easily. 5 laps later, we've now managed to reel the leaders in some more, so we're now 2.7 seconds off the leading pack. And well, speaking of the leaders, have a look up ahead with Ryan and Zolo now battling for first place. So you've got Zolo right up Ryan's trumpet going into this hairpin, and I think he may have given him a bit of a nudge on the apex of the corner. Either that or Ryan lost the back end, but Zolo has managed to make his way past Ryan. He's into the lead of the race, so this is certainly the first time that Zolo's led a race in the Meadow Racing League. He's not somebody who's usually that far up at the front, but he's doing a superb job in this race. In that 911, he's flying. He's in the lead of the race now. So we've got those two up ahead. We've gained about half a second in amongst all that, so we've just got the gap down from 2.7 to 2.2 just in the space of those few corners. At the moment, it's Kelvin's got the fastest lap of the race in the Alfa Romeo 4C with a 1:42.7, so that is very impressive. The 4C is not necessarily the car of choice, but we've got Zola now off wide going through turn 5 and turn 6. Yeah, not quite sure what happened. I think he may have run wide coming out of turn 5 and got a penalty, as you can see. So he's now going side by side with Ryan into these last two corners. They are side by side. We are reeling them in so much now. We're only 1.2 or 1.3, 1.4 seconds behind them as they go side by side now into the final corner. Ryan just did a very good cutback there into that last corner. Did a really good cutback on Zola to get up his inside then. So Ryan's now back in the lead, just checking our fuel then. We've got plenty of fuel. We've got 3 laps of fuel still remaining. Is Zola going to make his way back up the inside of Ryan into turn 1? He's looking at it. He's getting a little bit argy-bargy as he goes there, as he's trying to, well, the game starts serving his penalty when he clearly doesn't want to. So Zolo's now tucking back in behind Ryan. We are firmly within the slipstream range now as we head up to turn 2, so we are going to need to brake a little bit earlier than normal, but unfortunately we don't brake any earlier than normal, and we go into the back of Ryan annoyingly. Apologies for that, Ryan. I forgot to brake early basically. I've been going around for so long not in slipstream that when I finally did get into slipstream I forgot all about it, and yeah, went into the back of Ryan. So Ryan's just doing a bit of a shake there, thinking he was a little bit annoyed. Yeah, my mistake, just forgetting about slipstream. I didn't brake late, I braked at my normal point, just yeah, I had slipstream. So Ryan's now back down to second place with Zolo in the lead. 1 lap later and it's now time for the pit stop phase to begin. So we are slap bang halfway through the race now, so it would make sense to pit now. So we've got Zolo pulling off into the pit lane then to make his one and only stop of the race. So as he pulls into the pits in, he's got 3% of a tank remaining. 1 lap later and it's now time for us to pit too. Me and Ryan are also going to be pulling into the pits, so as we negotiate this very tricky pit entrance here, very sketchy in my opinion. The pit entrance should start before that second to last corner in my opinion, but anyway, pulling into the pits then, making sure we both don't put super soft tyres on by accident. That is a mistake I've made before. You can do that very easily via force of habit. So pulling into the pits in with 3% of a tank left, and Ryan interestingly has 11% of a tank left, so he's got quite a lot of fuel, a lot more fuel than us, so that's going to gain him a good second in the pit lane, and he will just have to spend less time refueling than us. So as we sit here then and wait for an absolutely eternity for our car to appear in its pit box, it takes 28 seconds for your car to get to its pit box at the Red Bull Ring. It's absolutely ridiculous. So topping the tank back up then, so refilling the tank all the way up to 100%. That will then allow us to go to the end of the race then flat out, so we'll be able to go full speed to the end of the race and hopefully pump in some 1:42s. So on that first stint we were doing consistent low 1:43s and we were doing a bit of fuel saving. This stint, because we've only got 18 laps, we should be able to go flat out through the whole thing. So exiting the pit lane here, and where is Ryan going to be? So we've got Ryan, he's way off into the distance at this point. He's, what is that, 4 seconds ahead of us? So he's gained a heck of a lot of time on us there in the pits, as he didn't actually fill up the tank himself. He put quite a lot less than 100% in basically. So yeah, he's going to have to fuel save now during this final stint of the race, whereas we are not. So that is going to gain us an advantage. Over the course of the next 6 laps, we did indeed manage to make our fuel advantage count, as well Ryan was having to quite heavily fuel save whilst we went flat out. So Ryan's run a little bit wide there coming out of turn 1, and what is that is going going to enable us to do is get into Ryan's slipstream. So we are now within 3/4 of a second as we head up to turn 2. So we've got to make sure that we brake early now that we're in slipstream. Try not to make the same mistake that we made a few laps ago. So slamming on the brakes in for turn 2. Ever so slightly going to tap Ryan with the slightest of nudges there into the corner. I don't think I braked late, to be honest. I think it was more Ryan braking early because I made the apex perfectly fine. So yeah, going into turn 2 then with a tiny amount of contact. Are we going to be able to send it up his inside into turn 3? We are reasonably close, but no, not going to go for the move. We're more than a car length back, so nah. Especially in the wet, if you make any contact on the apex, you're going to spin. So decided not to go for the move then into turn 3. Turn 4 isn't really too much of an overtaking spot, and we're not particularly close either. So if you have a look on the right hand side at our lap times, we've done pretty consistent high 142s with 143 thrown in there. So pumping in the 142s then. Going through turn 5 now. Ryan is quite strong through this corner. I find myself a little bit weak, so Ryan's pulled a bit of a gap there on exit. He's done a good job of getting the power down, but we are of course in slipstream, and so we are going to regain some of that time then on the run down to these final 2 corners. Braking now just after the 100-metre board. We've absolutely sent it into this final corner and gained quite a lot of time on there. So we gained about 2/10 just on the corner entry there. And then through this final corner, we've decided to use a sausage curb, whereas Ryan hasn't. That's probably the good decision, to be honest, by Ryan not to use that sausage curb. It's the safer thing to do. Now in his slipstream on the run down to turn 1, this is very much an overtaking spot, and we're going to try and make the move then for the lead up his inside into turn 1. So going side by side now, Ryan's giving us plenty of space and exit. He's actually out on the runoff area, and we have managed to make the move stick. Reason why we got past was because that runoff area is painted and it is very, very slippery. It's painted and it's dirty, so Ryan, I could hear the wheel spin that he was getting. He just couldn't get the traction down coming out of turn 1 there, and we managed to get the move done on the exit of the corner. So we are now into the lead of the racing, having 360'd it not too long ago. Back on lap 5, we were how far behind were we? 7.5 seconds behind. So we've managed to regain all of that time now and make our way into the lead of the race. Moving ahead another lap now, we've managed to increase the gap to Ryan to 1.6, 1.8 seconds. So managed to pull a gap on Ryan as well. Ryan is having to save fuel behind us, so we are naturally pulling away from us, and then we're actually about to start our fastest lap of the race, which is a 142.4. so do check this lap out whilst I talk over the top of it. And this race, it showed that practice makes perfect. Basically, this was the first race I'd done for probably months, to be honest, where I'd put a good solid amount of practice in, more than an hour's worth of practice, and it showed. Have a look at those lap times on the right. We're doing pretty consistent high 142s with a couple of 143s thrown in, and it showed basically. In Ryan's defence, he didn't do a good strategy, and had he done the correct strategy, had he done the strategy that I did or that Zolo did, I think it would have been a far closer contest than it ended up being. Ryan, he was quick, but he spent the whole race heavily fuel saving. He had 11% left at the end of that first stint when we pitted at the end of lap 20, and for this stint he only put 83% of a tank in, so he's having to fuel save a lot in this one too. So in his defence, he was quite quick. What I would also say as well is that I use a direct drive wheel, so I've got a Fanatec Podium DD1, whereas Ryan's only on I think he's on a Thrustmaster T500, which is a wheel that was discontinued about 6 years ago. I do have better force feedback than he does. I also have better pedals. I believe I have better pedals. I've got the proper Fanatec Club Support V3 pedals with a proper damper kit behind the throttle as well, so I've got a very, very stiff throttle pedal, which both those things help massively in these conditions. You really do need good force feedback in these wet, sketchy conditions, and you need really good throttle control, so that's helping massively. Also in real life, wet weather is my speciality. I tend to think of myself as a very good driver in the wet. You'll see that in due course on this channel. So coming across the line in, setting the 142.4. So like I was saying, wet weather is my speciality in real life, so that did help a lot then for this race. And as we move ahead then to the end of the race, as you can see, we ended up taking the victory by quite a large margin. So coming across the line then, we ended up taking the win by 9.9 seconds ahead of Ryan then. So winning by quite a decent margin. Zolo finished in P3, quite a close third as well, only 2.5 seconds behind Ryan. So Zolo did an absolutely superb job in that race. Definitely his best performance so far in MRL. Really kind of came out of nowhere. So great great job there by Zohir Ali. Congratulations on your first podium in MRL. Mark Hughes ended up finishing 4th, so Mark Hughes as well having quite an unusually good race, to be honest. Mark, he's a specialist in low grip conditions. He likes road cars, he likes that kind of stuff. He doesn't really like downforce cars and Group 3 cars, those things that have got quite a lot of grip. So yes, Mark Hughes showing his speciality in that race. Kelvin finished in 5th. John 6th. Mike did really good job in that Lamborghini Huracan, but just to keep the thing vaguely under control. Coming home in P7, didn't even get lapped, so he did a great job there of keeping that beast under control. You've got Tom Pretty in 8th, Sean in 9th, you've got Jake Beatty in 10th, Steve Coatsworth made his debut and finished in 11th place. He quitted, actually rage quitted, and yeah, Dimitar also quit the race. I don't know if he quitted or it was a disconnect. He does have quite bad internet, so it could be either, to be honest. But yeah, that was the race. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. Next up, we've got Spa. So we've got the penultimate round of the championship at Spa-Francorchamps, back in dry conditions. We did think about making that race a wet race as well, but no, we decided to be nice to people and make that a dry one. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that video. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you all next time. So goodbye.